Welcome to the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schubnecht, and today's guest is Gina Economopoulos, author of Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you, Kelly. It's a joy and a pleasure and an honor to be here with you and your listeners. So I appreciate
Well,
it.
same. Thank you. I'm so glad to have you on. So, your book is a little different. I don't have a lot of memoirs on, but your book is a memoir, and I'd love to hear from you just uh, why you wrote this book. So, if you would introduce yourself and your book to us.
Yes, as you know, I'm Gina Economopoulos. I'm from New York, and I have to be honest with you. I never thought when I was a young child I would be an author. Writing was not my forte, but yet my experience of pain and suffering as time went on became ingrained in me. And every time I came through a pain and a suffering, felt a little joy, and then all of a sudden I went back to a pain, that paths of pain and suffering, joy. And then by the end, somebody had said, "Oh, you should write your book, your story." Because I was a bartender, then I went into the nunnery as a convent, a Catholic nun, and then I went back to bartending. Like I was like one
Okay.
confused pup.
So many things to dig into there. Okay.
Yes. So, but go ahead, you can lead and I'll answer.
Okay. So, yeah, I didn't mean to stop you at all, but I just had like such a reaction to what you were saying. Um,
You're not the
so
only one.
I'm currently reading Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. I don't know if you've heard of that book, but um similar, I mean, not similar path. He wasn't a bartender who became a monk, but he spent a significant amount of time in, what do they call it? And whatever they call the
Monastery?
place. Yeah, I think it's
A Trappist mon
Ashram. Oh gosh, darn it. I
Mhm.
don't know. Anyways, that place.
Oh, I
Um
think I know that word. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So he spent a significant amount of time there and, thought he was becoming a monk, but then there was a reason that he ended up leaving that and going back into, the normal world or I don't know, whatever you call it, whatever the difference is there. But uh anyways, and so when you said that, it made me think of kind of his journey. So tell me about that. You were a bartender, you went into the nunnery. How long were
Yes.
you there and kind of what led you to that path?
I was there for 12 years in the South Bronx, a Franciscan nun. Uh, what led me there, put it this way, Kelly, when I was 18 years old, I wanted to get married and have 5 kids by I turned 25. That never happened. I mean, that was my dream. That was
Hmm.
yes, my goal. Because being with my parents, being raised with 8 kids, it was fun. I was loving. My parents were loving. So I was like, yeah, this is what I want to be, is a housewife, a house mother, and raising kids. But that, like I said, it didn't happen. And I, yeah, I mean, my ways aren't God's ways. So I went to college, and that's where I developed drinking, having fun, being in that kind of scene. I graduated from college, and then I moved to Pennsylvania with my parents because they moved, and now I don't have a boyfriend. I don't have like a husband to be. So I got a degree in social work. So because I do have a heart of service, and it's like, yeah, I'll be a social worker. So when I went to live with my family in Pennsylvania, my parents and my younger brother, I became a bartender because, of course, we find that job before we get our real job. And I
Right.
never got a real job either. So I mean, I'm batting 0 for 0 in my life at that time. But anyhow, during that time, bartending was great. I was in that atmosphere and living life. And then I'm thinking, oh, I want to go travel the country, and I could be a bartender anywhere, an easy job. And I love to travel. And then I was like, oh, let me go be a cruise line director like Julie McCoy on the Love Boat. Like, yeah, this is me. Because I have a personality plus. Everyone loved me, Gina Bridger, blah, 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 all this, boy, whatever. And but then during my time as taking care during the time when I was with my parents, but bartending, my mom was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh.
She went in for a simple surgery. She comes out and they said that she had 4 to 6 months to live. She was
Oh.
terminally ill with bone cancer. 23 years old
Oh.
this time, didn't know what death,
Wow.
didn't know what cancer, didn't know really anything about that. Was raised Catholic, but my life being a bartender in college didn't need God at the time. Not that I didn't believe in God, but didn't need the church or God. So I didn't really have a real relationship or a spiritual relationship with God or someone greater. So my mom did die. I took care of her with my dad. And all my plans, all my dreams of going traveling just went to the wayside. And I was very broken when my mom died. I was very
I'm
lost.
sure. Yeah.
Um, so it was the beginning of grief. Didn't know how to grieve, learning grief. I want my mom back. Where is mom? And everyone kept saying she's with God. So went into back to the Catholic Church, and I would go into the church and I would say, you know what, God, they say you're here. I don't want to talk to you. Get out. I want to talk to my mom because I don't like you. I don't want nothing to do with you. I want you. And so in a way, there was a seed planted in me to go searching. What's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? Uh, and so I did. And as other situations happened, it was like, wow, I got back in a relationship with God. Wow, I got the resurrection like every Christian on Easter Sunday. I was a late bloomer, okay? It was through my mom's death that I got to receive the resurrection of life and eternal life. And then in that it's like, wow, let me go become a nun. So all of my choices in life, it was like boom, boom, boom. And in the long run, I was just searching ever since I was a kid. I was searching to be loved, to be accepted, and to belong in the world, in the society. My parents loved me unconditionally, but it was like outside, outside. And so I did. I joined a Franciscan order. Ironically, I had met them. Now when I'm having this enlightenment, they say, St. Paul conversion, like, God loves me and everyone like that, like being Woodstock, whatever you want to call it, love, love, love. Um, I went on a pilgrimage to Denver, Colorado to see the
Mm.
Holy Father, Pope Paul John II back in 1993. And I went with this community of friars and sisters, a Franciscan community, saw them like, fell in love with them. Okay, let me join. So I did. I joined because they loved me. How could anyone not like me? That's how I say, how could anyone not love me? I was loved as Gina, I'm loved as Sister Regina. But
Yeah.
to be honest, Kelly, Gina did not love Gina. I was like empty on the inside. So
Yeah. Well, man, so we started with your book, but then went into this life story, which is just like fascinating. Um,
and
so
that's what
tell,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
Kelly, but
no,
that
go for
is
it.
my book. That is my
Yeah,
memoir.
yeah.
That
Well, I
is
figured, yeah. So tell
yeah.
me, what led you to write the book then? Like, what led you to, this was your experience. Gina did not love Gina. So how did Gina uh turn that
Love Gina.
into that story?
Sorry. Well, when I
Yeah.
left the convent, I was pushed out. I was emotionally abused. I was shattered. I was broken. I would share people my story. Nobody knew what was going on in the last few years of my religious life because I held everything in. I had a smile. Everyone loved me. How can religious people do this to me? And with that really painful experience when I left, everyone says you should write a book. Yeah, and I'm like, I, I'm full of anger, I'm full of resentment. I can't write the book. So I had to go on a healing of myself. So when I left the
Mm.
convent, I went to live with men and women with disabilities, experience it was a transition time as being a house mother and just a time of healing. Okay, I'm getting healed. And then I got to a point, it's like, I'm tired of serving, I'm tired of everything. I want to like reset, find a life. I'm in my 40s. I want to find a guy that I could spend the rest of my life, et cetera, et cetera. So how I come to the Jersey Shore. Come to the Jersey Shore. I needed a job. Of course, I'm not a sister anymore, and I didn't want to do social work because I was so overwhelmed. So I went back to bartending. I was like, okay, that's what I know how to do. Go back to bartending. Nobody knew I was a sister. Nobody knew my past or pain or anything. It was something brand new and everything. A gentleman comes in. His name is Danny. We fall in love. Make a long story short, we fall in love. So I'm like, aha, this is it. This is my new life. This is the white picket fence, the house, and everything like that. He was a retired cop. And so I was like, he found out I was a nun. It didn't scare him. It scared other guys, but it didn't scare him. So I was like, okay, this guy does love me for me. It didn't scare him about my history of being a sister. And then I come to find out he's an alcoholic. And he was drinking when I met him.
Mm,
So, but our love went beyond the disease. So here, not really familiar with alcoholism. So thinking that you could stop if you love me, you could stop. He did. He found sobriety finally out in Arizona, out west. Okay, this is where my picket fence is going to be. This is a new life for Danny and I. This is a new, beginning, and excited. He's working a program. I'm in Al-Anon. We'll working together. This is it.
mm,
So he comes back to get his truck because from the Jersey Shore, he gets his truck and drives cross country with his mom. We're gonna meet up with them like a month later. Well, they got into a tragic car accident in Indiana where the
mm.
mom died, burned up, and Danny burned up. So so this is my story. This is my memoir. This is like my pain. This is like another part. When you get that call saying
Yeah,
360
can't
degree
imagine.
turn, it's like, oh my God, okay, regroup, pray, God. Danny survived, thank God. So I uprooted, go to Indiana. We got involved with the AA and Al-Anon group out there, love, support, everything like that. Yeah, okay, Danny, you're sober. You made it. You got, granted, mom died, but God saved you for me. We got engaged. Well, lo and behold, I mean, and I was still really unfamiliar with alcoholism. So lo and behold, what does he do when he's in pain? When an alcoholic's in pain, sees your loved one
Mm,
burn up, he picks up. So he started drinking. And I'm like, oh, God, I can't believe this. You know what I mean? It's like, does this ever end?
yeah,
Can I get a happy ending in anything in my life? And that's my whole life. It was like the poor me, why me? Now, okay, now Dan, and you're drinking, and so when he picked up, we're in Indiana together. I kicked him out. I was just so confused. I was like, I don't know, I was like, and we got engaged and everything. And so I was like, you got to get sober. Bargaining, manipulating you, David, was afraid with future, ashamed not to tell, I don't want to tell people
yeah.
things. And so a few months after that, I come to find out that I go over to his house and he was dead. I found him dead. He fell and hit his head.
Oh my
So
gosh.
now the question is, you asked me why I'm writing this story. What I wrote this with the pain and everything. So
Yeah.
at this point of my life, done, finished. I'm done with my life. I'm done of smiling. I'm done of anything. I'm just done. Finito. I'm existing, a zombie, whatever you want to call it. And I was shattered. It wasn't even broken. I was shattered. It's like you can't put me together again. And
Yeah.
so so another morning, another grief, and that's where like a few months after Danny died, I was with my sister upstate New York, and that's where I started writing. I started journaling. I
Mm,
started writing all the pain of Danny, everything. And then I started writing about what happened to me as a sister that nobody knew. A lot of pain, a lot and then as a child, not because I was born with a lot of health problems, just the poor me's and everything. I can't put that smile up anymore. I'm tired, I'm hurt, I'm broken. So I wrote about 180 pages, put that aside, and this was back in 2013. So then after that, I came back to the Jersey Shore because I'm a nomad, one would say, wandering. I'm living in my car. I just didn't know what life, didn't know a sister lost. I mean, I had at this time I had no dreams or anything at all. My dream, or I should say, my purpose was to suffer. Give it to Gina, she'll suffer. Don't eat anything. Don't. I mean, hey, whatever. And so then when I came back to the Jersey Shore, I was invited to go to these AA meetings, which I was familiar with. And I was like, let me just go and find out why Danny died and these people are sober. I couldn't, like, I was always looking for the mystery, for the answer. Why? So when I was in these rooms, I went into the rooms. I'm not an alcoholic. I identify myself as not an alcoholic, but I was able to be present and to listen. I cried and everything, and I did that for about a year. And then a friend of mine comes up to me and says, Gina, did you ever, you come to these meetings all the time. What is your relationship with alcohol? My relationship, it's all blah, 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 blah. And then I had to look at myself, and I looked in
Hmm.
hindsight in my past. I mean, we all have different stories, but we have that same common denominator of the disease of alcoholism, cunning, baffling, insidious. And on April 2nd, 2015, God willing, in April, I will have 10 years of sobriety. I had said, my name is Gina. I am an alcoholic. And I do have to say, Kelly, it was a bittersweet day. I mean, when I said that, I was like, who said that? And then everything I was holding on to, all the shame and the pain and the guilt and the anger, the fear, just opened up like an open wound.
Hmm.
And then in that, I was like in more pain. And then in that, I heard a voice saying to me, do you want to go drink it away? Or do you want to go on your sofa couch, your self pity couch that you love so much, like you don't want to live? Or do you want to live? Join us, and that's what I did. And it was one step at a time, one day at a time that I joined the club of AA. I started working a program of honest, open, and willing. And so then about 3 years, I'm in recovery, and now I could say I'm a faithful, a sober woman of God today. God's back in my life. I hated him with a passion when I first came into the rooms. I love him now. I would always make a joke. People like, you can't hate God. I'm like, yes, I can. I'm divorced to him. I married him. He knows I could hate him. Like he knows. And so about 2 years ago, somebody read my 180 pages. I said, because I just felt like inspired to share my story, to share my strength and my hope to people, to the world, to whether it doesn't matter if you're an alcoholic, because I experienced a lot of darkness in my life of
Hmm.
different situations of yourself and everything. And then the person who was reading it helped me put it together and said, start writing now, the good things. This is where what happened. This is all the good things, and this is all the good things. And that's how I came to write my memoir. It was published last August. I'm a first time author, new to me. I'm walking in shoes that it's not in my DNA, marketing or anything like that, because I do have a heart to share and passion to let people know you're not alone. Do not give up. If it could happen to me, it happened. Anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, I want to read the subtitle of your book so we talked about shake the dust off your feet and walk, which is the title. The subtitle is Faith, Sobriety, Self-Discovery, and Healing, a memoir. And I didn't say that earlier, and I should have led with that, but that you told that story, which is you went through a lot of really hard things and a lot of pain. And I think, that subtitle says a lot that you went through this self-discovery and healing, and that was a really important part of your journey. And writing the book, it sounds like, was a kind of a part of that, right? That you
yes,
were healing through the writing of your story. Um, and you mentioned that you aren't, this is new to you and you don't know anything about marketing, but one of the really smart things that you did is getting on podcasts to promote your book, because it's a great way for authors to reach new audiences and build awareness for their book. So I want to applaud you on that. Well, how
thank you.
has how has having the book out into the world it affected you?
Wow, it's been a success, I have to say. in my mind, it's not I'm not on Johnny Carson yet. So that's my big success. That's what I would say. I'm not on Johnny Carson. I mean, if those who know Johnny Carson, I don't know, but that's just my play on words. But yeah, my boyfriend Brian always tells me just touching someone or just someone reaching out to you, or like there were times where I would do a book event and someone, drove just to come and get my book, even though it's that one person I sold that book to, it's a success. So
Hmm.
it's been such a great journey, a learning. It's been a learned experience in seeing the small things instead of not to see the greater things. I've also learned that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It takes time. I've also learning how to use social media, to my advantage, which I'm s- I was a nun for 12 years. I mean, I'm still in that mentality. Like, I slept on the floor. We didn't have TV or
Yeah,
computers or
yeah,
laptops, or, I mean, it took me a long time to do a flip phone when I got out. So, and I'm learning and I'm learning. I get frustrated but I persevere, and I
yeah,
continue to shake the dust off my feet. Yes, that the title of my book is from my journey of what I shared. But even today, even in small things, I continue each day to live, shake the dust off my feet and walk, shake the dust.
yeah,
Okay, it's going to be a better day today. Okay, I accept whatever happens today. God lead me, because I come to realize yes, it's my story, but it's God's story. So I'm learning and trying to discern, where to go with it. Right now I'm just on social media, and yes, I do podcasting because I love it. I love talking to you. It's my passion, my heart, and I'm like, whoever, if it's one person that's listening to this, that's great. You know what I'm saying? That to me is a
yeah,
success. Like, I
yeah,
just talking to you is a success for me, just to share
yeah,
my story. And the more I share my story, it's like I'm like, wow, that really happened to me at times. It's like,
yeah.
oh my God, I made it through. And I do have a website that I'm learning to blog more often, just to share my experience and try to encourage people to check
Yeah.
out my website. And it's all about encouragement. It's all about promoting the message of hope and strength. So
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
learning a
Well,
lot.
that's great. That's great. Well, yeah, the title of this podcast is Beyond the Bestseller because I want to feature women like you who wrote a book that's not necessarily, I mean, would you love to be a bestseller? Yes, but it's not necessarily the purpose of your book. The purpose was you had a message that you wanted to share with the world. And yeah, that's what this podcast is all about. So for anyone
But
who, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say the first month it was a bestseller on Amazon in few categories.
Oh,
Like the
well,
first
I didn't
24
know that,
hours.
so that's
The first
awesome.
24 I was like because at the time I had a publisher, of course, who helped me, and I was like, oh, what is okay, whatever, that's great. I
Yeah.
mean, and so I could stamp that to say, yes, I had that in one time of my
Yeah,
life. But
that's great. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on that.
thank you.
Um, so for anyone who is maybe feeling like you did a few years ago, or I don't know how far back that was that you were in that place where you were just feeling like, my purpose in life is to suffer, um, what would you tell them?
Oh, I would just say, like I always tell everyone, my three messages is that do not give up, you're not alone, and know that you are loved. So I would tell them, and also just encourage, just keep breathing, keep feeling, keep moving, because God has a story for each one of us. It's unfolded each day. We may not like it today, and it's okay not to like it, but just keep breathing, one breath at a time. So,
That's great.
and
Well,
it's
thank
and
you,
it's
Gina.
and it's worth it. It's worth it at the end, because there is, and I'm not saying, Kelly, everyone's going to go through what I went through. Like, we all have the same feelings,
Hmm.
feeling grief, sadness, loss, despair. Those are, whether it's coming from this or this, but those feelings, you just feel them and you work through them, and there's other outside resources to help, listen to, and everything that and that's what I mean, is not to give up. Just keep walking forward. and following your heart. Even if your heart's broken, if you need to cry, then cry, because that's the time to cry. So,
Yeah. Well, and I like that part of your recovery process included journaling, and I think that's important that if and I'm not I'm just saying for people who may be struggling with things, I think journaling is a practice to look into and consider, because I think that sounds like it was a big part of your recovery
mhm,
process. And I know I use journaling and I am a big fan of it. So I think that's great to hear that that worked really well
yeah.
for you.
And that is so true, Kelly. And even I've also learned when we hide things on the inside, whether you bring it out on the journaling, it comes to light and this healing could take place. But as well as if, even if it's a moment saying there's fear inside you and you just say, I'm afraid of this, out loud, it dissipates. It dissipates, I'm angry at this, whether we're in the shower, it dissipates. And then that's part of journaling too, is when you could speak it out loud. And then the light comes because we keep things inside. It's surrounded by darkness. So that's why
Mhm.
journaling is good, and just spitting it out and being honest. And yeah, I'm angry. That's it.
Yeah.
But then when you can able to do that, it doesn't control you anymore. Like with the journaling, like the fear and the anger. Like today, I could be afraid, but it doesn't paralyze me anymore. It's like, okay, you could be my friend, but I don't need you right now. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Gina, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I will link to your book in the show notes. You mentioned website. Is there
yes.
can you share your website link with us and anything
Uh,
else that, any other way that listeners can find you?
Okay, on my website, it is ginaecon.com. And then on that, you could go to my Facebook, Instagram, and you'll read my blogs. And then also contact. So I share to the listeners if anyone has a prayer or anything, questions, or any kind of feelings, if you want to, whatever, I am here for all. So don't hesitate, because you could contact me through my website.
Great. Well, thanks, Gina. I someday hope to get to the Jersey Shore, and when I do, I will reach out to you. We can hang out on the beach.
Please do, Kelly. You're always welcome.
Thanks, Gina.
For a community of women writers to support and inspire you on your journey, join the Author Power Circle. Connect weekly with fellow authors, stay accountable, and move your book forward in an encouraging community. Learn more at kellyshuckneck.com.